Coming up on the show, a deadly crash on I-75 is raising new questions about Amazon's middle-mile trucking network. We're going to share how our investigation uncovers a troubling pattern of lawsuits and safety concerns that families say cost lives. Also, hundreds of Atlanta kids were just days away from losing after-school meals, mentorship, and a safe place. Now, last-minute release of federal funds creating a much-needed lifeline. And an Atlanta nonprofit is getting a $1.2 million boost to better serve people without homes while it works to meet a growing need ahead of the winter season. This is The Take. Let's get it. Hello and welcome. I'm Chesley McNeil, and this is The Take, where we go above and beyond the headlines and we look at the why and how stories are impacting you and your community. Yeah, we get right down to the story, folks. We invite the experts in to give their take on today's top stories. And today, going back to school, traffic is a major concern. Welcome to the first time on the show, Rachel Cox-Rosen with a check on the traffic right now.
Thank you so much, Chesley. I wish I was making my debut on The Take under better circumstances. But unfortunately, if you're traveling from Brookhaven into Buckhead this morning, you're dealing with incredibly bad traffic on I-85 southbound due to this multi-vehicle crash. It's an interesting one as well. So our traffic reporter, Doug Turnbull, he's been on scene all morning. He got information from Georgia State Patrol. They told him that this crash involved many vehicles, and that one of those vehicles, they didn't find out until they were on scene for a bit, that the folks inside that car couldn't open their door. So that's technically called an entrapment. So late in the game, they had to call out all these fire trucks to help those folks out of the car. They blocked all lanes at one point. So again, this is 85 South, just past Georgia 400. And although now lanes are flowing, couple left lanes blocked, but 2 lanes open, look at these slowdowns. We're seeing it backed up for about 4 to 5 miles as you go southbound on 85. So single digit speeds, that's no fun. Use Peachtree or Piedmont to go south instead. Chesley, back to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Rachel. Really appreciate it. Now on to our top story. Frontline Response in DeKalb County has long served as a lifeline for hundreds of people experiencing homelessness. And now it's gearing up for a major $1.2 million expansion aimed at helping more people in need. Here now to talk more about the project is Frontline Response Executive Director Will Butler. Will, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning, Chesley.
All right. Let's start off with more on the mission of Frontline Response. What's behind the drive to help those in need in your county there?
Well, Frontline Response is an organization that has been dedicated to rescuing women out of sex trafficking and sexual exploitation, and men, women, and families out of homelessness. Perhaps, particularly in DeKalb County. And so that mission holds true to us, and it's near and dear to our hearts.
Yeah. Talk to us about how this $1.2 billion expansion is going to help.
Well, the $1.2 million expansion will help with our facility that we have on Gresham Road. We have an emergency shelter, a 90-day shelter, if you will, that allows individuals to come in and receive some of the supportive services such as case management, mental health counseling, behavioral health services, workforce development, to get back on their feet and, work towards sustainability. Some of the things that we're doing are, in our facility are for building improvements. We'll create an all-gender private restrooms and expanded modern showers. We'll have on-site medical and mental health exam rooms. We'll have a walk-up community cafe. And more importantly, we can expand our sleeping capacity, increasing overnight accommodations from 260 to nearly 400 individuals and families.
Yeah. Are those some of the newer features that you mentioned? If not, what are some of the newer features that's going to be?
Yes, those are the newer features that I mentioned in that expansion.
I got you. So you had companies help you like Lowe's and Spray Global. What did it take to get these partners on board? How did you get them on board?
Wow. Well, Spry Global is our all-service contractor, general contractor on the project. And, we brought on Lowe's. They heard about our mission and our vision and what we were trying to accomplish, for this upcoming warming center season. And so it aligned with, some of the things that they were trying to do. And we are just so pleased by the remarkable contribution of goods, services, supplies and manpower to help this project come to fruition.
Yeah. You guys have a bigger vision for addressing homelessness in DeKalb and Metro Atlanta?
We do. We do have an upcoming announcement on August the 28th, where we're looking at developing another property that's 25 acres, and it will be a holistic approach to addressing homelessness and those unsheltered individuals in DeKalb County and throughout Metro Atlanta.
Yeah, there's a famous saying that the homeless will always be with us, but you guys are hoping to help fight off that challenge. What's your hope for the future when it comes to battling this situation?
Well, our hope is to eradicate homelessness and at risk for homelessness in Atlanta, and give individuals a fighting chance. Let them know that, there are organizations, there are people and individuals who really care for them and want nothing from them except for to see them succeed and be the best that they can be.
Yeah. Are you guys looking for community help in this?
We're always looking for community help and partners, volunteers around the clock. This is, our organization is a great example of, private, public, faith-based community, as well as government coming together to attack this issue, because it's just not a frontline issue, it's a community issue.
Yeah. For the folks out there watching, they want to get involved with you, they believe in your plan, how do they contact you?
Sure, they can contact us at 404-817-3502.
Okay, just give you a call. No a website or anything like that? No?
Yes, and they can contact us at www.frontlineresponse.org.
Frontline Response. Will, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate your insight, and continue to do what you do for our community, my friend.
Thank you. My pleasure. Have a great day.
Take care. Folks, we have an 11Alive weather impact alert for today and tomorrow. We're looking at that rain around the forecast area. We had it over the weekend, of course, 2 to 4 inches of rainfall, some localized heavier spots, and then we're going to get more today and then more again on Tuesday. Of course, that's going to add to what's already out there. The other concern would be not only the flooding, but also the winds. Winds will be a bit breezy this afternoon, and because the ground is already saturated, the soil is already impacted with all that rain, that water. It doesn't take much for a wind to come along and knock over a loose tree at least, and so we may be looking at that as well. So you may want to stay tuned for the forecast for that. But this afternoon, that rain will start to intensify on us a bit. We'll continue to see that, and then it starts to taper off as we head through the rest of the week, and temperatures will go up from there. We'll be back right after this. All right, welcome back to the show. A busy week ahead for the Trump administration. The president's on-again, off-again tariff plan set to take effect beginning on Thursday, while the latest job numbers show an uptick in unemployment. Joining us now to talk all about it is NBC's Jay Gray. Jay, give us a refresher on who's going to see some of the higher tariffs this upcoming Thursday.
Yeah, and look, they are proud of these tariffs. They're going to share them with as many people as possible. At least 67 countries, which America currently has a trade deficit with, will see a tariff. Many of those will be 10 to 15%. That includes the European Union, which will face higher tariffs, the EU and most of the other countries at 15%, as I talked about. Canada, as it stands now, at 35%, Brazil at 50%. Negotiations continuing right now with Mexico and China, those countries currently at 20 and 30% respectively.
Wow. Jay, what are comments saying about the tariffs and how they could impact the average consumer?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of concern that the higher tariffs could slow the economy, leading to inflation and job loss. The Yale Budget Lab estimating that the tariffs could cost the average American family an extra $2,400 a year. Analysts say a number of businesses are already having to cut margins just to pay for some of the international taxes that are already in place.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people talking about the recent job report. What do the numbers say, and how is the president reacting this morning?
Yeah, they really are. That's become a main issue of contention here in Washington. And look, the numbers are not good. They show hiring is slowed. Only 73,000 new jobs reported less than the 100,000 that were expected. That reported on Friday. The Bureau of Labor Statistics also revising the 2 previous months' counts down sharply, shifting the growth rate to just 35,000 over those 2 months. And right now, that's the biggest 2-month downward revision since April of 2020 during the early days of COVID. So not a good sign there. And President Trump, without providing any evidence or data, called the report, quote, rigged, and he fired, of course, the chair of the BLS. So that's something that's really gotten a lot of attention here as well.
Have we seen any reports about the president's feeling about the numbers? Has he put together any kind of facts to support what he's saying?
Yeah, not to this point. And he says that these numbers have been off for quite some time. He just doesn't believe what's reported here. Democrats are pushing back, though. They say that the firing of the chair was unjust, politically motivated. And they say she was fired for simply telling the truth. Some are calling for a congressional investigation. Republicans are quick to point out that the position serves at the will of the president, and they say he's simply shifting to his own appointee for that position. But I don't think we've heard the last of this. And I think it'll also be very interesting to find out how the market responds, because this is still something that's very fluid, something that's still being discussed a lot here in Washington.
Is that all of the fallout you think we'll see behind the firing?
Yeah, I mean, I think at some point, I think a lot of that, though, depends on how the market reacts. And if the market takes this to heart and things start to drop off, though the futures this morning were very good, then you might see some changes. But right now, I think it'll be a lot of huffing and puffing. And as you know, that's something we see here at the Capitol quite often. And perhaps an investigation will start when Congress comes back. But other than that, like Republicans are saying, this is a position the president has the right to control and appoint someone he wants in that position. And so that's what's going to happen moving forward.
All right. NBC's Jay Gray, thanks so much for your insight this morning. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Coming up on the show, what you need to know when it comes to kids going back to school and their health. We're going to get a check on it when we return. Stay right there. Oh, yeah, we all know what that song means around here. It's time for kids to go back to school, back to the classroom. You know, one of the goals is to keep them healthy so that they remain in the classroom. You don't want them at home, right? Let's bring in Dr. Dory Saxon. She's a pediatrician from Kaiser Permanente right here in Atlanta. Dr. Saxon, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, not a problem. You know, what's one of the most common mistakes that parents make when it comes to kids going back to school and their health?
Well, we want to make sure they're up to date on their vaccines. So we want to make sure every parent starts with that, getting their yearly physical and making sure they're up to date on their vaccines. And just in regards to keeping them healthy, we want to make sure that they're getting enough sleep, regular exercise, and eating right.
You know, it seems like, and it's been a while since I had that age going to school, but it seems like it's impossible to keep them completely healthy, right? Are there any particular health risks that are common for the first week of school?
First week of school. So as we transition into the fall, the allergies really come out and asthma. And then just with the kids being around each other, we're going to see the respiratory viruses start to increase and really peak into the winter time. But we can definitely get a cold year round. So we want to make sure that they're washing their hands well and staying at home if they're sick.
Oh, just seems so impossible, right? You know, the kids are anxious going back to school, especially at that early age. What can parents do to support their child's emotional health?
So in addition to getting enough sleep and exercising, having those one-on-one conversations, even for a few minutes, talking about the highs and lows of the days, anything that they're worried about, anything coming up, can just help to manage those emotions. And even if the parent isn't at home to pick up the child or to spend the evening with them, we can talk for a few minutes just about the day and what's coming up and how to manage those emotions.
Yeah, you know, I get it. You know, parents are busy as well. They may not be able to diagnose the signs, right? What should they be looking for when it comes to stress and anxiety, or what can be easily overlooked?
Mhm. And, sometimes stress and anxiety can manifest as recurrent stomach pain, frequent headaches, so even those physical symptoms might be an indication of an emotional issue. Sometimes parents will tell me there's a lack of motivation, or even use the word lazy, perhaps. And so we want to recognize that that could be the child faltering in some way with school that we want to address and see if we can help them with organization, talking to their teacher, and just really getting them on the right page.
Doc Saxon, I had old school parents, all right? And so even if I said I was sick, they were sending me to school anyway. How do parents know when it's safe to do that, when to keep them at home and when it's safe to send them to school?
Well, one thing I say to definitely stay at home would be if you have a fever, 100.4 or higher, let's go ahead and stay home until we're fever free for at least 24 hours. And also, if you have any respiratory symptoms that could be disruptive for the child or for their classmates, like a frequent cough, frequent sneezing, we want to go ahead and stay home.
Yeah, yeah. Some great insight right there. Do you have any tips for parents to help keep their kids from missing school with illness?
Definitely washing our hands well. We want to cough into our armpit, and just being aware of what's going on around you, especially as we get into the winter. Let's ask, okay, anyone sick before we have those play dates, just so we can stay at home if someone's sick.
Yeah, yeah. We talked briefly about head lice. I don't know if that's your area of expertise, but how do we avoid that as well? What do we need to tell them to avoid that?
So it would be good to inspect the hair. So if you're seeing any signs of worry, sometimes you won't actually see the bugs, you just see the eggs. So if there's any worry, go ahead and talk to your pediatrician. And there's even an over-the-counter remedy for it.
Sounds good to me. Dr. Saxon, thank you so much for your insight. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we'll have healthier kids this semester and everything will be okay.
Thank you.
All right, take care now. All right, if you're having a tough time saving your money, you're not alone. We're going to talk about why it's so tough to save money right here in the state of Georgia when we return. Stay right there. You want to hear this. All right, welcome back. When it comes to stashing cash, some states make it really easy, while others, it's nearly impossible. A new Yahoo Finance report evaluated 7 key metrics across all 50 states to grade how easy it is for residents to build savings. Well, it found out that North Dakota as the best state, followed by Wyoming. For the worst state, that honor went to Hawaii and California closely behind. Georgia was in the middle of the pack at 27th. So why is it that we struggle here in the Peach State when it comes to saving money? You know, the man has all the answers, financial expert and friend of the show, Abel Poulos. Welcome to the show, my friend. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
Good morning, Chesley. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. You're looking good as always, man. Now look, when it comes to the financial health of Georgians, right, what does this Yahoo rating tell us about what we're really doing and what's really going on here in our state?
It tells us that we're mid-road, right? Out of the 50 states, we got ranked 27th, so not too terribly bad. Could we be better? Absolutely. But, if you look at some of the other states, we could be a whole lot worse. Overall, Chesley, what I'm seeing is that states, every state is being impacted by what we call the housing burden, right? Where either your mortgage or rent, if you're a renter, not a homeowner, is becoming over 30%, in some cases 40 or 50% of the total household income. That's where it becomes challenging, and part of how these rankings, how they rank these the states in the statistics here that we're in this report that we're looking at. So that is the key. When homeowners and renters are spending just an insurmountable amount of money on housing, it becomes challenging to save. It becomes challenging to make to make ends meet day to day.
Yeah, you said housing. Does wages play a role in it as well?
Absolutely, they do. Wages play a role, of course. There's sometimes it's just difficult to increase your wages unless you get a pay raise or you get a second job or you get a new job and you switch employers. A lot of times you'll be maxed out at how much you can earn. So ultimately, it comes down to how to keep your expenses under control, whether that's just to make ends meet or whether that is to begin saving, creating some sort of a savings a basket to where you can begin to just put something away for difficult times and even an emergency situation.
Give us some more perspective on this. Like in certain states, they're saying it's very, very easy. Is that because their housing is lower, their wages are more? I mean, what is it? What can we find here that helps us save money that you can't find in other states?
Yeah, overall, I looked at the report, Chesley, and what I noticed is that for the most part, the median income across most states, even the ones that got ranked higher, better than us here in Georgia, the income, it wasn't that the income was substantially higher. It was that the cost of living was less, right? So it goes back to the housing. And for example, if you're a household family making $100,000 a year and you're spending, $25,000 a year of that money on housing, you're at 25%. What we call housing income, DTI, debt to income. But if you're making, for example, 60 or 70,000, spending that same 25,000, that percentage of your total income going to housing is a whole lot more. So housing is part of the key. We're seeing housing prices here and rent prices here in Metro Atlanta have become unaffordable for many people.
Wow. So would you say Metro Atlanta is probably one of the places in the state that would be the toughest place to save?
I would say so. I think if you get out to the outskirts, North Georgia, South Georgia, we might see the results being different than what folks are experiencing in Metro Atlanta. I mean, look, I've seen rent prices reach upwards of $3,000 for just a two-bedroom, for example, apartment in the metro area. That becomes challenging. I mean, think about spending 3 plus utilities. You could be upwards, say, for example, of $3,500 a month on housing. I mean, then you got car payments, you got your insurance, you got your gas, right? The list goes on and on and on. If housing was the only expense we had to live, it'd be one thing, but it's not.
Right, absolutely. One piece of advice for folks to do better at saving here in the state.
Look, my first piece of advice is review your expenses, try to trim down on unnecessary expenses, and try to pay off high interest debts. Once you start, if you can live debt free, then you can start allocating and reallocating your money, your budget towards other things, which include saving. All
right, sounds good. My friend, Andrew Poulos, really appreciate the insight, my friend. You look good, man. You always look good. Take care. All right, coming up on the show, we're going to talk to the Alzheimer's Association to see if they're any closer to finding a cure. We're back right after this. Amazon ships approximately 1.6 million packages a day. And to get all those from point A to point B, they rely on thousands of truck drivers to haul their shipments. But senior investigative reporter Rebecca Lindstrom says that some believe Amazon's way of hiring those drivers is making roads less safe. Rebecca joins us now to explain. And Rebecca, what is Amazon doing differently?
To power its delivery network that you were talking about, Amazon developed its own internal platform. They call it Relay. And that allows it to bypass traditional brokers and long-term contracts and work directly, load by load, with small trucking companies that are sometimes just one person with a truck. I think of it kind of like Uber for Amazon. Amazon says it has onboarded more than 100,000 interstate motor carriers at some point in its Relay app. Now, I want to be clear, Chesley, we're not talking about that person that's dropping your package off at your front door. We are talking about what is called the middle mile. That is the distance between warehouses and distribution centers. When you're hiring a large firm, that company usually has the responsibility to know who is driving and to help troubleshoot delivery issues. But Amazon's Relay app gives it direct access to the driver. It has GPS trackers on their trailer. They give drivers a map to follow, weather reports, dispatchers can see when they stop. So drivers are rated after every load on internal metrics, and better scores mean better jobs. And it is that level of involvement that some say makes Amazon responsible for safety.
Isn't the federal government responsible for inspecting trucks and qualifying drivers? Where does Amazon fit into that?
Yeah, you're right. The U.S. DOT does have 2 data metrics a company can use to decide who to hire, and it is their responsibility to gather those metrics. The first is a U.S. DOT rating use compliance. It's looking at reviews to determine if a company's safety management is satisfactory, conditional, or unsatisfactory. It stems from an on-site examination of the carrier's operations, their accident history, and vehicle maintenance. And then the second thing, there is what is called Behavior Analysis and Safety Improvement Categories, or BASIC. It looks at roadside inspections, crash reports, and investigations that have been conducted within the past 24 months. But with hundreds of thousands of carriers on the road and thousands more launching every year. The DOT admits it is overwhelmed and it can't keep up. Congress, for example, passed a law in 2012 requiring a written proficiency exam for new trucking companies. More than a decade later, that test still does not exist. So the big question is, what does a company do with that data or the lack thereof? And we've already talked about the control Amazon has on its drivers through the Relay app. We analyzed crashes here in Georgia involving interstate licensed drivers and found 64% of the trucking companies still licensed to operate don't have a rating or a safety inspection score. Associate Professor Alex Scott of the University of Tennessee did his own study as well. He reviewed safety records from thousands of carriers who hold at least one shipment for Amazon, Costco, Target, or Walmart. And he found in 1 month alone, Amazon used 194 trucking companies that had no safety score. And that was more than double the number for all of those other retailers combined.
Wow. So why are we talking about this now?
We are talking about it now because tomorrow Joseph Antoinier is expected in court. He is accused of causing a deadly crash on I-75 near the Georgia-Tennessee border on Mother's Day of this year. This will be his first appearance, the court hearing where the charges are actually read, and he gets a chance to enter a plea. Again, this is relevant because he was carrying cargo for Amazon at the time of that crash. Witnesses told police that he was driving erratically and frequently changing lanes before the accident that killed 2 fathers and a little boy. 7 other people were rushed to the hospital. So that crash has certainly raised questions locally about why he was on the road.
Is Amazon responding to this at all?
They are. We've shared all of our findings with them as well as that of that professor. Amazon did decline to sit down and talk with us or tell us anything about the driver in that specific crash. But in a written statement, a spokesperson did call that accident near the state line a horrible tragedy. The company did say illegal subcontracting is a big problem and that it has barred nearly 2,000 carriers because of it. They say that's one of the factors that was contributing to some of those drivers that didn't have a safety record. And they say to stop drivers who shouldn't be driving for Amazon, the company has deployed automatic U.S. DOT readers at more than 500 sites across the U.S. and enhanced its carrier screening and driver ID mechanisms. It also pushed back on that data analysis by Scott. It said only 6% of carriers in 2022 actually had a safety rating, and given its volume and its use of those small carriers, they say it's unfair to cite that as a safety concern. Tonight at 11, though, Chesley, we're going to be talking about some of the other safety concerns that we found and adding more context to this discussion. So I hope folks will join us then.
Oh, we're going to be joining you. You hate to even, when you see a truck on the road now, you're kind of scared to even go by it, right?
Yeah, well, you know, give them a wide berth. They need it.
All right. Thanks a lot, Rebecca. Really appreciate it. Again, you can see Rebecca's full investigation tonight on 11 Alive News and on 11 Alive Plus. Definitely tune in for that. And if you have a tip that you want for Rebecca to check out, call her at 404-873-9111. Again, that's 404-873-9111, or email her at investigates@11alive.com. All right, from food assistance to lifestyle changes and even new blood tests, major breakthroughs in protecting brain health were unveiled at a recent conference aimed at fighting Alzheimer's. Here now to share more is Clay Jacobs, the executive director of the Georgia chapter of the Alzheimer's Association. Clay, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having us.
All right. Many people still see Alzheimer's as a mystery, right? Or what is being done about the actual cause of it, or what do we know about it?
I think that's the exciting part. And you mentioned that last week, the Alzheimer's Association's International Conference hosted folks from across the world. And some of the most exciting things were around risk reduction to eliminate risk or reduce it for those asymptomatically, looking at how we improve brain health, really significant announcements around treatment, and even how do we diagnose before folks see symptoms coming along. And so much is happening. It's just how do we inform people about it and how do we make a difference in their daily lives?
Is it just like memory loss? Is that first notification, or is it something else? I know typically we talk about memory loss and confusion. What's the difference between normal aging and those early signs?
It's such an important question because we associate things like memory loss, and that is a part of it. But ultimately, it is a disease, Alzheimer's disease or any dementia, that impacts the brain. And so we could see personality changes, memory loss, problems with language or vision, or a whole slew of other pieces. What's really important is we know so much more now that if somebody notices something, then it's time. And if it's happening more frequently and more often and more severely, that's certainly time to talk to our family or our physicians to learn more.
You talk about personality change, and that has hit home for me. Not much so much of a memory loss, but a personality. I mean, almost a complete personality change. Is that also Alzheimer's? I mean, we probably only relate memory loss to Alzheimer's, but there's different forms of it, is what you're saying.
It is certainly one of the things we see with Alzheimer's disease, but also with a variety of other dementias. And it's one of the hardest, right? We see the person we care about changing, but really it's their brain and their brain structure that's changing. And so how they process and how they interact and how they respond is what's changing, but there's a biological cause, even though it's the person we've known for years, and that's hard to reconcile sometimes.
Yeah. Let's talk about the conference real quick here. There are more than 35 Georgia researchers present. What does that say for the state's role in fighting against the disease?
It is truly impressive. This was a global conference, over 11,000 researchers from across the world, and to have Georgia so well represented, presenting, speaking, sharing their findings, whether it's our largest universities or our smallest, there are people in the Peach State making a difference around this disease, and it's important we lift that up because it's happening in our own backyard, and they're sharing those results with the world to hopefully make a difference.
You had a few major breakthroughs during the conference. Talk to us about those.
We did. I think we saw a couple of things that are really exciting. We saw the results from something called the U.S. Pointer Study, which is a 2-year lifestyle intervention that showed that people who followed one of two kind of prescribed interventions saw improved cognition and, in fact, delayed cognitive aging by almost up to 3 years. And so those are things that once they come to community, we can all do. We saw things like the 2 FDA-approved treatments that are out in the community. We've now seen real-world data and seen that it's backing up what we saw in trials. And in fact, one of the really important parts is that now that people are on it, we're hearing how satisfied they are with the results of the treatment. And then we saw things like cardiovascular drugs were looked at because we know high cholesterol, diabetes, blood pressure are all risk factors. There was an observational study that looked and actually showed that those on a combination of therapies managing those issues saw improved cognition similar to someone maybe 3 years younger than they were.
Wow. All right. Clay Jacobs, Alzheimer's Association, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for that insight today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right. Plenty more stories coming up right after the break. Folks, don't go anywhere. This is The Take. We'll be back right after this. All right, welcome back. Oil prices are slipping and some Boeing workers are on strike as of this morning. Here to talk more about that and a whole lot more is CNN's Sabeel Marsalis joining us from the NASDAQ market site in New York City. Good morning to you. Let's talk oil first. Prices slipping today after OPEC agreed to a production hike. What does this mean for us, Sabeel?
Good morning, Chesley. It could be a choppy trading session for oil. That's what that means. After OPEC and big oil producers said they would hike production in September. This increase is for an additional 547,000 barrels per day of oil to be added to the market. It's the latest in a series of increases as OPEC looks to regain market share. And it comes as concerns grow over potential supply disruptions linked to Russia. The U.S. benchmark oil is now down about 2.5% after falling nearly $2 a barrel on Friday. Chesley, it was trading at around $75 a barrel as recently as mid-June. This morning, it's around $66 a barrel.
So that's some good news there, right? A little bit. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting announced Friday that it was winding down its operations. Does that mean I can't see Sesame Street? What does it mean for our local PBS stations all around the country?
Well, Sesame Street is such a big program, it might be safe, but the Corporation for Public Broadcasting says it is starting to wind down its operations. This after President Trump rescinded $1.1 billion in funding for public broadcasting. The nonprofit CBP is used to channel federal money to public media stations throughout the U.S. The head of the corporation says eventually some stations, especially in rural areas, may have to shut down without the federal support. Most larger stations have various other funding sources, and Chesley, those can include viewer and listener donations, so that money definitely helps soften the blow from the federal money that's being rescinded.
Okay. Thousands of Boeing defense workers went on strike this morning in the St. Louis area. What's causing the tension there?
So the Boeing workers who make fighter jets are on strike this morning. About 3,200 workers at plants in Illinois and Missouri began striking because the workers, they build and maintain fighter jets, including the F-15. But the strike came after union workers rejected the latest contract offer from Boeing late last month. It would have given many of the workers raises of 40% over the 4-year life of the contract. Chesley, workers voted down Boeing's latest offer that was just yesterday, and it would have removed scheduling issues that had prompted objections.
Yeah, well, we keep an eye on that. All right, so a big story here in the Atlanta metro area because of Delta Airlines in the news today, denying that it used AI to set ticket prices, but it's not totally AI free. How is the company looking to use AI moving forward?
So Delta says it is not using artificial intelligence to set airfares. This after some lawmakers said they believe the Atlanta-based airline would use AI to set prices, and that could lead to fare increases. In a letter to the lawmakers, Delta said ticket prices are dictated by market dynamics and competition. The airline also said it has never used nor plans to use any product targeting customers with prices based on personal data. Delta did say, however, it was evaluating AI to enhance parts of its business. And that, Chesley, could be for things like answering complex questions from customers. It could also be helping with and assisting the airline in scheduling crews.
Or setting those ticket prices. I'm kidding.
Well, yes, exactly. They're saying they're not doing that.
Yeah,
so
that's what they're saying. Okay, all right. Yes. Well, so thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for your insight this morning. Really appreciate it. All right. When we come back, folks, there's good news for the local boys and girls clubs throughout our area. We're going to talk about it when we return. Stay right there. Welcome back. After-school programs across Metro Atlanta were on the brink of shutting down when a federal freeze put key funding on hold. Now those dollars are finally flowing again, and the Boys and Girls Club says hundreds of kids will have or keep their safe place to learn and grow. Let's talk more about it now, what it means moving forward with Libby Wright. She's CEO of the Boys and Girls Club right here in Metro Atlanta. Libby, welcome back to the show.
Good morning. It's nice to be
So
here.
talk to me, first of all, let's put in perspective what the Boys and Girls Club mean to so many young people in our area.
Absolutely. So I think everybody knows that the mission of the Boys and Girls Club is to make sure that we ignite the unlimited possibility of kids and teens by creating safe, inclusive, and engaging environments. And we do that in the city with over 25 clubs in 9 counties, and we serve over 8,000 youth per year.
Wow. When that freeze came down, what was your first reaction to that?
So you first have to know that I was only enrolled for 3 weeks when the freeze came down.
Oh, wow.
So there was a little bit of shock and awe. It's critically important to understand that 35% of our funding comes from government sources. 22% of that funding comes from the federal government. When the 21st Century funds were withheld, that represented approximately $1.7 million that operated 6 of those 25 clubs. So we were at the risk of closing 6 of the 25 clubs that we had. That would have impacted about 500 children and almost 100 members of our team.
Wow. How close did you actually come to closing those sites and turning the kids away?
We were confident and decided we were going to move forward with registration. And so we went into it very optimistically. But I will tell you, we were 2 days in front of our board meeting to have the discussion when the funds were released. So that was a very joyous day, to say for sure.
That was going to be my next question. When the funding was restored, what was that moment like for you and your team?
It was a huge moment of relief. I have to tell you, this is critically important because we are committed to our mission. We're deeply committed to this community, and we did not want to have to turn away not one person. We never want to do that. We want to serve more and more children because we know the impact of our programming is significant to their future. And as we like to say, Atlanta needs club kids.
Absolutely. Now, I guess you're probably learning a little bit going forward now. What have you learned, or what can you take from this going forward to maybe protect yourself against the sudden shock of funding being taken? Is there anything you can do?
Yes, absolutely. The fact fact that Atlanta needs club kids, well, our clubs need Atlanta as well. So we are looking as we move forward to just the source of funding that will allow us to stay whole by the community getting engaged. We're so thankful to our foundations. We're thankful to our corporate partners. We're thankful to the individual donors, and we consistently ask that everyone continue to get involved because this is a community opportunity. We serve these young people during their critical out of school hours, and that is so important to the entire community. And so we're asking that we keep ourselves whole and that we make sure that we are the foundation that these children need.
Yeah. What about elected leaders here in Georgia and up in Washington? What would you say to them about the importance of after-school programs?
We know that having kids in productive and safe environments is critically important to just not only the children, but to the communities in which we serve. We are creating future-ready kids in order for these kids to go out and make an immediate impact in the world. So I would continue to ask everybody to realize that these are our kids, not just Boys and Girls Club kids, not just a parent's child, but these are our kids, our American kids, as well as our city kids.
Somebody out in the audience looking at this right now saying, hey, I want to help. I want to make sure this doesn't happen again, or will we be on the brink of this happening again? How do they get involved?
I think there's two things you can do. One, understand that the funding is back for now for 25 through 26, but is currently not written into the budget for 26 and 27. That vote will take place in September. Let your legislators know that they can do something about it. You can go to our website, which is bgcma.org, and you will find an action alert there. And it takes less than 10 seconds to let your legislators know how important this is.
Yeah.
The other thing they can do is also come register. Bring your kids. We're still open. After school care begins this Wednesday.
Wow. Yep. So many in our community, alumni of your great organization. We need them to step up again and help out as much as possible. Really think of it. Thank you so much for providing us with that insight. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, let me take care. All right, folks, another check on your forecast, plus my final take when we return. Well, we're looking at 11Alive weather impact alert for today and tomorrow. Thanks to that rain and heavy rounds of it coming through our area off and on as we head through the day today and tomorrow. So today and Tuesday, our 11Alive weather impact alerts for that rain, which will lead to flooding in our forecast area. By the time we get to the middle of the week, that temperature starts to warm up. We'll be in the 70s for today and tomorrow, and then 81 for the high temperature on Wednesday. And then we'll notice that temperature starting to slowly creep up a little bit as the chance for rain start to go down. By Thursday and Friday, we're down to a 30% chance, 20% chance as we head into Saturday and Sunday with temperatures back into the upper 80s by Sunday. All right, time to go back to school for many here in Metro Atlanta. And believe it or not, it can be very stressful for the parents. Yep, a survey from Life 360 says the toll of the stress on parents is much worse than we actually realize. Time, right? Management, logistics are the biggest stressors that parents find. Spending roughly 17 hours trying to coordinate schedules and then trying to figure out who's going to get over here, who's picking up this person, that kind of thing. Stress you out. Money is right up there with time management and logistics, with families spending nearly $458 per child on school supplies last year, which most are lost during the year, right? You got to go out and buy more. The price for those same supplies have gone up about 10% this year. So shout out today to all the unsung heroes out there, the parents. Happy first day of school to you. Time to take a breath, relax, get them out the door, and then get some wine or something. Believe me, it goes by quicker than what you're experiencing right now. Look at me. I'm kid-free. I don't miss it. I can tell you that right now. Wow. Just relax, folks. It'll be over before you know it. Trust me. Oh, man. That's all we got for you today, folks. Make it a great one. Try to encourage some parents today who's going through all that stress. The survey also says they cry a lot, too. Enjoy today.